Hey Cloud Gamers, so today we're having a look at the Watch Dogs Legion's launch speed, and then we'll look at some of the benchmarks as well. Starting off with the speed tests here. All started from the platform loaded, and as soon as I've clicked that play button for each of the games here, you can see that there was an issue with the cloud save syncing, and that's now been fixed. The cloud saves do now sync across all of the platforms. You can see maximum settings was delayed a little bit there trying to sync, and you'll also see this on GeForce now as well as it starts. But 30 seconds in and Google Stadia is already going through the prompts. And there we go. Stadia at the game start screen at 45 seconds. Now that's probably a new record for this sort of game on Stadia. And it keeping its speed there as always. It'll be very interesting to see if it can hold up this speed against some of the next gen consoles, as we're seeing some blazing speeds of their startups as well. But the virtual PCs and GeForce Now slowly coming up here. GeForce Now still not quite started the full virtual machine. And there we go, GeForce Now just starting that main load at 1:30. Looks like maximum settings is going to be second here, even with that delay on those cloud syncs. And there we go, so maximum settings reaching that start screen at 1:49. Looks like Shadow PC might just make it third. And yeah, so Shadow PC is going to come in third there. Slight delay on the rewards screen, but at 2:15 really to the home screen. Not too bad. And GeForce Now being the slowest here, even though that's supposedly running the 2080C, which should be fairly close to the maximum settings rig. Finally reaching that start screen at 2.5 minutes. Now that stark contrast between Stadia's 45 seconds and 2.5 minutes for GeForce Now. Not huge in the grand scheme of things, but when you look at it percentage wise, it's over 3 times slower. Moving over to the benchmarks then. Stadia is fixed and you can't get to any of the benchmarks, so I'm just going to show some of the gameplay there. With maximum settings and GeForce Now running on ultra settings with some ray tracing enabled, and Shadow PC running on very high here with no ray tracing at all. You can see that quality difference between those two and Shadow PC fairly clearly, as we can see those ray tracing. Even though it's on medium, we can see those extra effects on maximum settings. And also the lighting effects as well. We can see that there's much more contrast in the GeForce Now and maximum settings version versus the Shadow PC one, but it's not absolutely huge. You can see as we go over that last puddle there that there's slightly more reflections on maximum settings. But Shadow PC, you're not going to notice a huge amount of difference with that ray tracing turned off, apart from the performance hit. And it's the performance hits here that I'm going to stress, because these benchmarks essentially make you think that you're going to be able to run this game at Ultra, but that's really not the case. Although it may give you an okay average, when you actually get into the real world play and that real time ray tracing starts kicking in, it does not handle it very well. So you will have to tweak game settings a little bit, following these benchmarks as a rough guide. You can see here that across the board, it's saying that the average frames per second would be around the 40 mark. But in real time, that's not the case. It will dip far lower than that and make you stutter and give you horrible effects. So when we look at this impact screen, which is actually extremely useful, you can see that the minor impact options are showing that the settings are on ultra for maximum settings in GeForce Now. And we've got that ray trace reflections on medium. and also the DLSS on performance. And actually on GeForce Now ray tracing was off. This was my second run doing with ray tracing off, and it was just about equaling the 2080 Super on maximum settings. But what you can also see is that shadows and reflections are huge hits across the board. So to tweak the settings, you'll probably want to drop those down a couple of notches as well, and texture resolution can also be a big hit on the VRAM and CPU. So if you have a 2080 or running on GeForce Now, I would recommend running this game on very high settings, but dropping the shadows and reflections down to high, and also putting the DLSS on balanced, and that will probably give you the highest quality for the best performance. Obviously dropping that down to high and putting DLSS on quality will probably give you a slightly better balance and higher FPS, but you will need to have a play depending on your rig to see what is best for you. So this was the benchmarks. Our previous video was for the 1080p comparison. If you've not seen that, I'll put a link in the description. We have some 4K comparisons coming up, so do hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the latest across all cloud gaming platforms, and I will see you next time.